it is. Thyratira. This no longer has that name. Thyatira.
I wanted to tell you how much I appreciated your story about the museum card turn. Because
The truth.
well, no, because that's exactly something I would do. I'm glad to know there are other people
Oh yeah.
that would do the same thing that I would do. It makes me feel better because that sounds like me.
I'm only embarrassed for a short period of time because I keep up in my game in that regard.
Brings me comfort to know there's other people. It's not just me.
Well, that happened last
Yeah.
night. It may happen tonight for all I know. These bistros, we got this old basilica, which is a church building and not necessarily a church. Guess we can get our card here again. I will tell you, this doesn't pass as a hotel key. Don't try.
Don't try. I'm not going to give him my room key to see if I can get in this place.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
All right, thank you. There you go, pull that off. Paid with the right card.
We had a good friend, Hassan Malai, who's one of the leading epitaphers in the world, who was working in this area, did several publications, and passed away here last year. These stones all used to be laying in a pile over here, and Hassan, they finally prevailed on the local authorities to set up kind of an open-air inscription gallery so we could actually read them. So this testifies to the ongoing endurance of trade guilds here in the city. You can see it. Who sponsored these two inscriptions? Both trade guilds. Nowadays are the fullers. These are the people washing the clothes, using the degraded urine. Remember we talked about that they would collect in the pea pots in front of their shop. And then the Lenarii, the wool workers, set these up. And these are dated roughly around after 222. And we have this phenomenon, we'll see some of these tomorrow. It's called the Natio Memoriae. And the Roman Senate, because of one of the emperors being so notorious and doing evil, their memory is damned in the empire. So the first one that this happened to is Domitian. After his assassination in 96, also happened to Geta after he was killed by his brother Caracalla in 211, and then this happened to the Greek name. There's Antonine. We can see here Sylvester, the emperor here. He's better known by Elagabalus in 222 after his death. And so the emperor's names are mentioned here, but this one is erased. So it's a phenomenon of erasing names. You know, there's got a reference, of course, in Sardis, and that would be from the civic scroll, or in this case, in public monuments. We'll talk about this tomorrow, especially with Domitian in Ephesus. So two very nicely inscribed inscriptions here that testify to the ongoing influence of the trade guilds in this city, which were very important to it.
So the Emperor Heliogabalus, that's should have been, I think it's Heliogabalus, was the emperor between 218 to 222. Only 4 years of his reign, he made many bad things, by the way. We can talk later, many bad things, but most importantly, he got married with a Vestal virgin that he shouldn't do, because he presented himself as a god, so he was able to get married with a Vestal virgin, which means a priestess or responsible of the divine imperial temples, that they were not allowed to marry. If they got married, in this case they were burying them alive, punishing them. There was a big punishment on this, so those virgins were not married with anybody, but Heliogabalus decided to get married. So an emperor wanted to get married with a virgin. It means that you cannot refuse. So this was a big disaster for the empire. This was one of the big disasters that he did. He got also married with a man, by the way, in his life before he died after 4 years. He was too young when he was selected as the emperor, so I made many mistakes, and finally he was just erased from the history, as you can see here. So when he died, they erased his name from everywhere because he was a shame for the empire. Like the Domitian, like the Geta. Anyway, this is a good example of the Domitian memorial. Anything else? This way.
The ruins are here right downtown in Thyratira. It's not Thyratira anymore.
So the basilica, first of all, that's just behind you, even though it has an apse, if you enter inside, the apse there, and it doesn't look to the north, it's facing not to the east, but it's to the north, so it shows us that it is not really a church, even though it's a Byzantine period building. It's just used as a storage building. Well, it was here because the main road of the city was something in this area. On this road, the major person, commonly road is called, archaeologists, they found some pieces of
That's a Roman road, which they've reconstructed. A lot of pieces lying around, you can see.
Redirected to the scholars. Look, you can see some parts are original, some parts are raised mark. And the road is going to there is the road of the city. Probably.
Yeah,
No? Probably,
yeah.
yeah.
No, sure. Right.
Yeah, it's the corridor of the city, which was going through the city center. Yeah.
The only other thing I will point out, if anyone wants to look at it, they've got over in the corner over there, why they don't have it moved in the inscription gallery, is a very early inscription mentions Titus on it. So these are quite unusual. Titus only reigned from 69 to 69 to 71 after his father Vespasian succeeded by Domitian, and it's laying over there as well. So I can point out that in it if you want it. So
Horace.
the angel of the church in Thyratira write the following. This is the solemn pronouncement of the Son of God, the one who has eyes like a fiery flame and whose feet are like polished bronze. I know your deeds, your love, faith, service, and steadfast endurance. In fact, your more recent deeds are greater than your earlier ones. But I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess and by her teaching deceives my servants to commit sexual immorality and to eat food sacrificed to idols. I have given her time to repent, but she is not willing to repent of her sexual immorality. Look, I am throwing her onto a bed of violent illness and those who commit adultery with her into terrible suffering unless they repent of her deeds. Furthermore, I will strike her followers with a deadly disease, and then all the churches will know that I am the one who searches minds and hearts. I will repay each one of you what your deeds deserve. But to the rest of you in Thyratira, all who do not hold to this teaching, who have not learned the so-called deep secrets of Satan, to you I say, I do not put any additional burden on you. However, hold on to what you have until I come, and to the one who conquers and who continues in my deeds until the end, I will give him authority over the nations. He will rule them with an iron rod, and like clay jars he will break them to pieces. Just as I have received the right to rule from my Father, and I will give him the morning star. The one who has an ear had better hear what the Spirit says to the churches.
The only one of the seven mentions the other churches, so this seems to be instructive. And again, the issue not here is not so much orthodoxy, it's orthopraxy, the way they're working out. And of course, the irony is that the Ephesian church, which has got the right doctrine, has lost its first love. And here's a church that's struggling with their ethics and those issues, and they're commended for their love, okay, and for what they're doing here. In fact, they're doing more than they did at the beginning, but they're under the influence of the teaching of this woman who's termed Jezebel, who's got apparently the majority within the congregation that are following her. She apparently has been warned before. How? Has John warned her or somebody else to repent? She's failed to do this, and so the stern warning now that unless this seems to be her last chance here to stop this teaching, encouraging people to be compromised both in the area of eating food sacrificed to idols, which the implication is that they're continuing to be involved in the pagan temples and eating in public dining. And the question is the sexual immorality here literal, which of course would sometimes happen in these contexts as well, or is it similar to the Old Testament imagery related to idolatry and that's associated with it? But anyway, the consequence is going to be severe for her and her followers if they don't repent. And so we have a minority within the congregation that's staying true. And then the promise from Psalm 22, then of the rod of iron here. So just as the Messiah was going to be the one to do this, he's now saying, for my followers, I'm going to give you that same authority to rule over the nations. We talked about this whole idea of the fasces when we were in Antalya, that the Roman government would have this bundle or rod of iron, that, which is another translation for the same term here. So we got both an Old Testament image here related to rule and authority, plus it's equivalent under Roman rule and authority as well. And so the believers are being promised here that in the eternal kingdom they will have the authority to rule with Jesus. So it's a very stark black and white situation for the believers here not to compromise, not to become accommodated to the culture around this. And so this is a warning for them then and a warning for the church today as well. So anyway, just a brief.
Number 6, right? Verse number 6.
That we visited, yeah. Church number 6, Thyatira or Thyatira or Thyatira.
It's all right.
We've heard several
it's all
different
good.
pronunciations. You already said this is a Roman road. But this is where Lydia was from. They were very popular for purple dye here. So it was.
He's been sitting in a parking lot someplace.
Oh, are you alright?
So is it inscribed or not? That's the question.
I'm gonna sit down on a. It's not a Corinthian column, but ancient column. How about that?
Start imagining writing on these. It's almost like the.
Can he do it? Can he do it?
What? Push it over? I can push it over.
In the village up there.
Are those Roman snails?
Yeah. Full translation, someone in the city by the name of maybe Zosimus prepared this grain for his wife Aurelia Pontiane. And he placed it outside of the city near the Sambatheon. So some people see this as a possible reference to to Sabbath, Sabbatheon, in the Jewish area that would be there were a synagogue. Others don't think that this is a Jewish reference, but there's some kind of a reference because it says the Sabbatheon of the Chaldean district. Possibility that we're talking about an area there with a sacred precinct or something to one of the local gods that's out there. But this is the inscription from the city that mentions it. And